Hello, my name is Nelson Delgado. I'm a certified emotion code and body code practitioner who's been doing this energy psychology work for a few years now. And from when I started, I knew right away that this modality was going to be a real game changer. I just didn't realize how much. And when I read upon various therapies, thanks to the book of Professor Vandal Koch, author of the book The Body Keeps a Score, he mentioned a lot of studies that he also participated in regards to various forms of therapy, and that, for example, talk therapy, cognitive behavioral therapy, EMDR, which EMDR was probably in the beginning, when it was just used as a form of control, no one thought EMDR was almost like a meme therapy. And what was funny is that EMDR proved to be the most effective out of all the therapies that they went through on their case studies. However, they still saw a good efficacy, but not a fantastic efficacy. And a lot of these people also that do this work also have great regard for Peter Levine, author of a book called I think Poking the Tiger or Provoking the Tiger, which is generally to do with trauma. And the end result that came out of it was that some form of somatic therapy was going to give you a big boost in alleviating someone from the emotional, mental, and chemical burdens that associate with early childhood trauma or any sort of post-traumatic stress that happened either early on or later in life. Now, I have a few clients that keep repeating to me the same message over and over again, and that is, never before have I had so much of a shift after doing the emotion code and or body code therapy with you. Now, emotion code in general is a good therapy, fantastic therapy actually. There is something missing though that I really think that more people that practice this need to come to terms with, maybe they already have, and that is that it's not enough releasing the emotions. And if we're doing it the traditional way found in the emotion code book, where you just do a few meridian passes to request its release, I really think we should start administering this based on what the subconscious requires to administer the release. If the subconscious is asking for more than a certain amount of physical engagement to trigger the somatic nervous system to release the trauma, then we should really ask the subconscious how much intention it's going to take to release it. That being said, triggering the somatic nervous system with the emotion code therapy and how that works is using the field as well as the meridian system in the body, which is I guess you could say, the biological highways that intermix with the energy body. And there's various patterns, and you can see this on traditional Chinese therapy reference resources such as body charts, whether it's or physical mannequins where you'll see lines on them. Each meridian chart corresponds to different parts of the organ, but if you engage the governing meridian, generally you're going to engage something that, like the trunk of a tree, signals the triggering of a release of something, and that the subconscious obliges accordingly, but it needs to be triggered as much as required by the subconscious, which means the subconscious is the true awareness of self, the true depths, the true awareness. When we honor what that subconscious mind requests in terms of intention and work that needs to be done to release the trauma, that is when you're going to start seeing dramatic shifts in your mental health. So that being said, when comparing emotion code to talk therapy is fine because you are talking about something and it's making it easier for you to talk about it, but it doesn't necessarily mean that the energy associated with any trauma is released. It is vented. It doesn't necessarily mean it's completely released. If you're doing cognitive behavioral therapy or EMDR, with cognitive behavioral therapy, there is talk and there's coaching and there's a transitional element to it that gets you away from your standard thoughts on the past events in your life and how they keep surfacing up. The reason why they keep surfacing up is because there's an energy affiliated with it, whether it's emotional or mental or offensive, that needs to be sit with, isolated, understood, taken wisdom from, and then released. And cognitive behavioral therapy doesn't necessarily do that, depending on the practitioner that you're with. When it comes down to EMDR, going through the trauma while moving one's hand does trigger the somatic nervous system, and it helps desensitize the individual from the emotions, or maybe retrains the brain to think this is not really presently happening, this is just a flashback, and it's not happening presently, and the process ensues where the person is more able to remember it, with it affecting them much less. And it's definitely in a significant improvement. Early on, there's a processing component where there can be some shifts that are unpleasant early on, but the issue is that when people start it, they stop it because they think they're having an adverse effect. But they need to move through the process and continue doing the process to get to the point where their mind no longer thinks that the past is happening in the present. That's fine. Emotion code therapy essentially just allows the subconscious to speak through the body. Your body will give you strong responses with strength and vitality for what is congruent. And what is not congruent, it goes weak. So that premise alone should help us isolate what trauma on a list of different types of traumas, or a catalog of different types of traumas, and help us navigate that spectrum, and help us isolate what emotions, what mental thought forms, what offensive energy needs to be released in order for the field to be more in alignment with a true sense of self and well-being. When we release those imbalances, then what ends up happening is your body chemistry shifts, because you're no longer stuck in emotional or mental thought patterns and cycles or loops that keep surfacing up. Emotion code, when used and guided by the subconscious and a experienced practitioner, helps you to not only release, but allows you to go back and reflect upon what that emotion was trying to say, what thought forms were manifest as a result of those emotional experiences. And when we release the emotional energy, there's less fuel there's less of that trigger that keeps surfacing up, that enforces the thought forms and the mindsets that we're trying to transcend from and overcome or move through. So this is why emotion code, to me, is a game changer in energy psychology. I think it's EFT has its place as well, the tapping component. It's great that there's transitionary statements, but we need to address the elephant in the room, is that what is in the memory of the field of the individual, and trying to let that memory or that field of energy, or that component in the field, be released intentionally, completely, over a natural given period of time. And this is what EFT doesn't do. This is what CBT doesn't do. This is what EMDR doesn't do. We need, and this is the elephant in the room, we need verbal, physical engagement for as much as is necessary for each of the traumas that we hold inside, and to do it on I would say a consistent basis with space between. It's not in your best interest to try and release all your trauma in just a month. You would be completely discombobulated with the amount of purging that's happening. It would be a negative experience, and the point of healing is that it should be one that is gradual, that feels that you can handle it, and it's done in a way where it's progressive and allows you to shift more easily, step by step, towards a state of being that you're more aligned with. So I've explained a lot, but how emotion code works is basically you're triggering the meridian system of the body, the governing meridian system that starts around the top of the roof of the mouth, but we generally start from the forehead to the base of the neck. And when we're triggering, and you can use both hands, when we're triggering this, we're also connecting to the nervous system and triggering the subconscious mind and verbally requesting it. And if you can't verbally request it, you can internally request it from a heartfelt intention, because emotions, this is your mission control center for emotions, and this needs to be engaged during the process. We need to fall into the heart and intentionally request it out. At the same time, making sure that we're doing as much as the subconscious deems is necessary, if not more. That's my approach. I always do more than is necessary to make sure that that release is happening. If you're not trusting the muscle testing so much, maybe there's an imbalance that's getting in the way of muscle testing correctly and getting consistently congruent responses, then it's always best to use a pendulum. And a pendulum allows the field that we are in to move the pendulum as we see fit. Now, I'm on a windy day, so there's likelihood there's going to be some sway here. But when you're in a position where there is no wind, the pendulum will respond forward or backward or side to side for no. So no and yes for trauma or mental thought forms you want to release. And you can get a little more accurate when you start asking for percentages. Is this more than 50% congruent, more than 60% congruent, more than 70? If you're not getting enough congruency to get, as much within like 90 to 95% of what the true amalgamation of energy and balance in your body is, then what ends up happening is that you might want to find out, are there combinational energies associated with this? What else is there? What kind? And in emotion code, there's various forms of different types of emotional imbalances. Like you have your normal trapped emotion, you have resonances where you felt a certain emotion for a week or more based on an adverse experience that was prolonged. There's also emotional anchors, things that stagnate you, pull you down when you're trying to move forward. There's a lot of different types of emotional signatures that we hold onto our bodies, and it's really important to isolate exactly what they are, because when a surgeon works on your body, there's various cells and various functions. There's various chemistry involved in the body. It's not a one-size-fit-all imbalance when it comes down to energy healing. There's various forms. There are curses. There are inherited traumas passed down from the bloodline. There are studies that prove this based on the genetic code of individuals, such as those who have children after surviving the Holocaust. So my point here in this video is to enthusiastically promote emotion code and body code. And if you've never had this kind of treatment before, and it doesn't even require that I am next to you, this is one of the safest treatments you could ever engage in, with the least, if not almost no side effects to this, because all it is an energy discharge. That's all. This has no there might be a physical shift in your chemistry as you get less and less inclined to being depressed, anxious. You might start feeling like you're lighter, you're calmer. And this might feel unusual to you if you've been in anxious and depressed states for a long period of time, and that for you was the normal. And this is the beauty of it, is that it's such a transformational modality. And how I approach this is that I don't just bring up the ages or ask your body to respond accordingly to the ages in which you experience this trauma. I ask you to not necessarily share every detail of what happened that was really adverse and traumatic. All I want to do is bring up the memory, and if the subconscious brings up the memory for you on its own, it's because you don't necessarily have to go through the really bad parts of your life to get the therapy you need. You can go through just what the subconscious thinks is necessary so that you can take your healing step by step so it's not so overwhelming. My approach is always to use your body's guidance, and at the same time, for those that have difficulty with the responding component, we're all connected. If my soul and my subconscious decides to connect with you on the etheric plane, the quantum level, and it provides some congruent ages where there are some specific imbalances you need to release, then I will bring up some ages for you. And it's not a psychic thing. I don't voluntarily choose to see the trauma you went through because that can emotionally affect me. And I would rather be very compassionate with you, but also remain detached, because that way I can be the listener, I can be the observer to what's really going on, and at the same time provide you with some insight as to where this is leading and what patterns could be repeating in your life that are related to this, so that when you're trying to move forward in a certain direction in your life, we're actually addressing the key imbalances that interfere with it, so that when I start using a divination system to bring some clarity to how to interpret how your subconscious, your field and its intelligence operates with more clarity, you'll be able to not only purge the emotional, mental, and offensive imbalances associated with the field, but you'll also be able to realign with something that comes natural to you, something that doesn't require you to force anything. You can just, what I would probably call is, surrender into it and feel more relaxed into that state of being, like it comes more natural to you. And when I start giving you those reversals, that conditioning that can really support you in the transitional phase, you'll really start to see dramatic shifts in your well-being and your mental health. So if you like this video and you would like to engage with me, please like the video, subscribe. I'm going to do more videos, maybe not necessarily outside, but it's a beautiful day and I couldn't resist. And if you want to comment below on your challenges that you're having, what you're going through right now, you can, and I'm going to also provide my email address so that you can contact me, my website as well, and I'm also going to provide in the caption below some promotions that I'm having. So if you want to address relationships, maybe prosperity, or issues regarding childhood trauma, any chronic pain that may be associated with your trauma, I will do everything I can to provide you with fair prices that it may be more expensive than your traditional talk therapy session, it may be more expensive than a traditional CBT session, or even EMDR session. But what you're really going to gain from this is that you'll be able to accomplish 3 times as much healing, if not more, in the same amount of time it takes one session for any of those therapies. And you get reports from me. And those reports include realignment, conditioning. So when you feel comfortable with the information I give you in regards to how your field operates, you'll be able to step into that path from going back into understanding what makes your genius unique, to the point where you start going through various shadow elements and understanding what parts of your shadow you're moving through, as well as how to move through them, what gifts are there for you, and what incredible states you can achieve when you master that process each and every single time. So you're not going to just conquer your shadow. Everyone has multiple different shadows that they're working with. And my process involves sending you the self-study, the self-examination information that you need, not to just see what you've purged. It's also about why you purged it and what is required of you to transcend, evolve from, grow, expand, and then you get to a point where you can achieve a state where you can thrive, and you're a magnet for the life that brings you the most joy. Not what you were conditioned to think would bring you the most joy, what actually brings you the most joy right here. Because money's great, assets are great, being part of a really cool network is great. But if everything is conditional based on you adhering to someone else's beliefs of what a content life is, you're going to spend a lot of your life adhering to a way of being that may not bring you the joy you thought it would. And life is too short here on this earth as a human being to be adhering to someone else's beliefs of what would bring you a life of joy. So again, thanks for watching for this long. I appreciate your attention on this. And again, reach out to me and I'll be more than happy to provide you even a free introductory session. I don't care if it's 30 minutes or an hour and a half. I want you to witness not only what emotion code can do for you over a 7 to 10 day processing period of time, but to also experience how I do it and what makes me or sets me apart from other practitioners. I'm not saying I'm the best thing since sliced bread, but I do a lot of research and I dedicate a lot of my time to understanding not just the psychology of things, but the spiritual aspect of things, the emotional aspect of things, and the mental aspect of things, and even the physical aspect of things, and how they all intertwine and interweave. Because I believe that we're at a point in time in our history where if we don't heal and transform, we're going to miss on a great opportunity to make this world a place where everyone can thrive and everyone can be accepted by the right people. And that means even family. Some of us do have to leave our family to find our soul family, and then to find our means to thrive, so that we can show those who raised us, who conditioned us a certain way, that their way isn't the only way, and we can find a better way on our own. But it sometimes takes a guide, a healer, a very conscious soul to help you reorient, in the direction that you should be going in, that your subconscious says, not what I say, but what you're to realign with that inner knowing that's not here, it's here. This is where your knowing resides. This is where you analyze and you are become practical with the decisions that you make, and trusting whether or not, through intuition and intuitional development, which I get into as well, the best course of action for you, so that you think less about it and you just do. And oftentimes, those that consistently commit to doing are more often met with the luck that they need to persevere and thrive. Thanks for watching, and I look forward to your comments, and I look forward to your emails and your messages. Take care, everyone, and don't hesitate. It's free. Just contact me, schedule a session. I make a guarantee to not disappoint. Take care.